Have you with us, and unbelievable, beautiful morning here. The sun is just rising and it is fantastic, clear skies, and Brian is with me this morning. It's great to always ride with Brian. 12 months ago we were going out starting Safari Live on Nat Geo Wild, and it was one of the most exciting things I've ever done. Clear, and Brian is with me this morning. It's great. It's sick. Lots of guinea fowl here this morning. Pete's around the other side. Scotty's out there as well. Drones in the sky. It's all happening here on Safari Live. Now, if you want to contact us, and that's what this is all about, coming out, watching us, being on the vehicle with us, and asking a question. You can ask us a question through hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or questions@wildearth.tv, and email. Get that to us as quickly as you can. We'll answer as many questions as we possibly can over the next 3 hours. Welcome to Africa. Let's go for a drive. Gave us some feedback about the whole camera last night. They heard lion. Now, thank you so much for that update, because we rely on you for things like this. It helps us to know what's regarding those lions. Now, just as Andrew and I went off air last night over at Treehouse Dam, we were sitting there. We went off camera and we sat just for 5 minutes, which we like to do, and just sort of have a little bit of a roundup of the animals that we saw. And sure enough, we heard lion off in the distance as well. That sound of lion, big lion roar. So great stuff there, and we'll see what we can find this morning. But it's a bit fresh. It's, as I said, 16 degrees, so 60 Fahrenheit. Beautiful light this morning here. Just cruising up here between Little Road, Zoe's Road, and Rebecca's Road. I'm going to head around onto Impala Plains and head down to Buffelshoek Dam eventually. We got onto that leopard yesterday with Brent and Steph and Jamie. It was a really beautiful sort of tracking through that really thick scrub, but we just couldn't get the vehicle any further. So Brent went back on foot, and then we lost that leopard. Unfortunately, we didn't catch up with it, but we did traverse the drainage line, or the dry riverbed back down there. Look at that, Brian. Isn't that fantastic, mate? Sorry, folks. I just want to give you a little look at that. That is kind of special. That makes you know you're alive, folks, when you stop and see things like that. When I was a little boy and I used to watch documentaries on television, there was one particular documentary series I watched. Of course, you know, there was the gurus of, you know, Sir David Attenborough and everything that was across your screen in years and years gone by, and still to this day, what a legend he is. But there was a guy that I used to watch, a couple of guys actually, on a program from the United States called Wild Kingdom. And he used to open with shots like this, and the guy's name was Marlon Perkins. What an incredible gentleman he was, and I always used to dream about being Marlon Perkins, and safari suits and all, Brian, but I never got the safari suit. Maybe one day. I aspire to have it sort of bite you. The Africa bug bites you. It's the worst bug out here. So we're just going to fumble around up here. It's a beautiful, cool morning, and I've got a good good cat feeling, working up to our lovely message from Julia as well. And this is what's brilliant about Safari Live, folks. You communicate with us, you give us so much information, you give us so much feedback, comments, support, all that sort of thing. But you know, the information you give us can really lead us to seeing some animals, because you're watching on some of the webcams, the Juma waterhole cam and others, and you can hear as well what's going on. Now, Julia said that you said that you heard hyena this morning. Well, that hyena was right next to our camp, very, very loud. What a beautiful thing to wake up to and hear. He's just sort of stirring this morning. About 3:30, I heard that beautiful hyena vocalization too, Julia. So thank you very, very much for that, and great to have you on board with us. We were reminiscing last night when we finished, and talking about funny things that happened over the past year, and our favourite moments, and there's loads of those, but it's still, have to pinch yourself to think this has been going for a year, and a long time prior to that. But on Nat Geo Wild, the team has grown, one of the most incredible teams I've ever worked with, amazing people, and it's just a great pleasure to be part of it. And to have you all on board as well, all the people that have followed and supported and just crafted this with us. It's just so fantastic to have you on board. Got a beautiful message from Amy, and it's about her son Jack, who is the same name as my son, so Amy, top name there. And Amy, you're telling me that your son Jack, through Safari Live, has just become a wild child. You rock, Amy. That's fantastic news, matey. Thank you so much. Got a lovely, my eyes are watering through a little bit of cold here as I'm driving. I'm not getting too emotional at the moment, but I might later. I think it was Rich Kin wants to know how you can get a Nat Geo cat. Well, I'm sure you can get them online, mate. If I could throw one through the camera to you, I would. So when Julia was talking about wild children, one of the things that we really just having a bit of fun with this next couple of weeks is a little unofficial campaign that I'm trying to push across, and Operation Wild Child, where we can get our kids to get inspired and connect with nature through Safari Live, and then onto your own backyard. Really important stuff that, you know, you get out there and connect with your kids in your own environment and habitats wherever you possibly can. So throughout the next couple of weeks, if you can get one chance to go and grab your son, daughter, nephew, niece, their friends of theirs or whatever, and sit around and watch an episode of Safari Live, talk them through it, tell them how it works, tell them the effort that goes into this, bringing these pictures to you live from the Land Rover through that camera all the way to wherever you're watching anywhere in the world. So fantastic stuff if you can, guys. Connect your kids with nature. It is a little bit brisk this morning. I think Peter saw an impala lamb yesterday morning, which is also a fantastic signal that the lambing season for impala is starting. Eventually the wildebeest will start to drop their calves as well, and excuse me, the zebras. It's a fantastic time of the year to see so many just that cycle of life happening and the reproduction cycle, the youngsters hitting the ground. Many of these hoofed animals that we look at, these ungulates, or the animals that are the herbivores, their gestation period, their pregnancy is quite long. Zebras, 365 days, wildebeest, 8.5 months, and the list goes on. And the reason why they're so long is because these animals have to hit the ground very, very well developed. They have to be able to run quickly, they have to be able to escape predators. So it's a long gestation period. Animals hit the ground, very well developed. Oh, look at that. There we go. Now I'm a even happier man. Oh, Brian over there. He's a ways off, but I'll just settle down for you there. There's a beautiful giraffe bull over there. There we go. Beautiful creature. So if there's one there, there's probably a few more around here. I'll just keep my eyes open. How fantastic. Browsing away there. Doing what he's designed to do perfectly. Using that long prehensile tongue to pull back the foliage into the mouth. And the giraffes have only got teeth on the bottom at the front. They've got a hard crushing plate at the top, which they'll use that prehensile tongue to grab the foliage, pull it back in with that hard crushing plate and the bottom teeth, pull the head backwards and strip that foliage off. There you go. Take it back into those large moulders, grind it up, and just like the wildebeest and the impala, these guys are ruminants, and that means that they've got a several chambered stomach, very efficient, effective digestive system. And he's just browsing. Beautiful there. So folks, while we try and find the rest of this herd, he might be by himself, but I'll just stick with him. We're going to cross over to Scotty, who has some very, very beautiful creatures on foot, one of the most fantastic creatures to track. We'll come back to you just now.
Wow, what a start we've got off to on the bushwalk. We've only been going for a couple of minutes, and we heard some branches breaking, and it led us to this herd of elephants. We can only see this one at the moment. The rest of them have crossed into very thick bush, and we're certainly not going to be following them through this thick bush. We've got to be really cautious of breeding herds. I saw quite a few youngsters heading off in a westerly direction, and this looks like a young bull who's at the back of the herd. Not untypical for the young bulls kind of to be lazing about at the back. And I don't want to try and get any closer. It's a very still morning, and if you see my ash bag, the wind's hardly actually moving, but ever so slightly in our favor, ever so slightly in this direction. But even still, I'm very cautious. If this breeding herd of elephants catches wind of us, they could come to investigate, and depending on their mood, obviously they will treat us however they desire. They are a lot bigger than us, but this is great. They've got no idea we're here. And let's maybe take a closer look at the Ellie. I don't know if you might need to move around a little bit, come a little bit closer behind me, and you might get a good gap of this elephant. Interestingly enough, he pulled down a branch from, I was wrong, I thought it was a silver cluster leaf. Not a silver cluster leaf, apple leaf tree rather, but it's a marula tree that he stretched up and broke off a branch, and now it looks like he's chewing on a bit of the bark, or is it the leaves that he's going for? Let's watch closely here. Oh no, the leaves and all. So evidently the marula leaves are becoming tasty at this time of the year. Elephants will feed on different things throughout the year, and I haven't seen them feeding on marula leaves very recently, so it's obviously a new thing. And what we can expect in the coming months is that they'll leave the leaves of the marula tree and actually start feeding on the fruits, which should start to ripen in about January or February. I know James showed you one fruit in the safari tent yesterday afternoon, quite underdeveloped but ahead of its time. You could say there's not many fruits around yet on the trees, or at least not very easily identifiable. But it's wonderful watching Ellie's run from marula tree to marula tree in the months of January and February. Now, just to give you an idea, we are not too far from this elephant, probably about 40 or 50 meters, and even though we have got a fair amount of distance between us, I don't want to go any closer. It's not necessary. We've got a great view from here, and just so fortunate to have all of you guys on this bushwalk. It's a very different experience to being in the vehicle, and a great combination, and for you to be able to experience both the bushwalk and the safari in the vehicle with HT and Peter this morning is a great way to be on safari. And I'm very, very happy that you guys are not only enjoying the sighting of elephants, but a little bit earlier with Hayden, you were getting to see some other massive animals of Africa, and the giraffe, and he is still with them, so don't worry. And as soon as this Ellie continues across the road, we're going to send you back. I don't think there's any more behind this individual, and the rest of the herd, like I say, we're moving from left to right. And it looks like he's probably going to start moving on shortly. No, still enjoying that marula branch he pulled down. It is a spectacular morning. Lots of dew on the grass, so quite a lot of moisture in the air, but quite crisp and clean. And after the recent rains we've got, the bush is coming alive. Lots of bird calls, lots of bugs. Oh yay, I think he's going to break down another branch. I love when they stretch up with their trunks. Come on, you can go higher than that for us. Well, that wasn't very impressive. He just plucked off a few leaves. But let's see, he may very well kind of tippy-toe on his back legs and try to reach that trunk up as high as he can. Continuing to test the wind. It is still in our favor ever so slightly. It looks like he may have detected something, judging by his body language there. Yeah, tail up. So I think rather than putting any extra pressure on this elephant, let's back up, and we're going to send you back to HT. What a great start. It's wonderful to have you on the bushwalk. My name's Scott. I'm teamed up with Jandre. We're going to continue heading towards Buffelshoek Waterhole to see what's going on there, but we're going to send you back to HT and the giraffe.
Well, we've just come around the corner and here's another giraffe, and there's a few more just around in the vegetation just off the road. We've just come to a stop, and it was very interesting as we got here. This particular individual stopped completely motionless and looked at us, but then stared down to the right of screen here, and that's a classic sort of behavior when giraffe do see danger approaching. They get a little bit nervous about something. You can still see he's looking down that direction. There's another individual a bit further on that you can't quite see on camera, but that individual is looking down that direction as well. So we're just going to sit here and see what happens, because obviously they've got a fantastic vantage point with that height, and we're just going to sit here. See, that behavior, what you're watching now, is that silence. They do that, they stop, they even stop actual feeding and just stare. They'll stare in the direction of something they're unsure about. So we've got a question from Through My Eyes in Illinois. Fantastic to have you with us this morning, and the question you're asking is, what is the tallest giraffe I've ever seen? It depends on where you are in Africa. There's lots of different records and things like that, and in captivity there's lots of records as well. And I think that by memory, reading in the books, records are around sort of 18 to 19 feet. Now that converts to about, in meters, if you work in metric, that's about 5.5, 6 meters. And we're just going to move up a little bit further, but that's the recordings that I'm aware of. I used to be, I'll tell you a little story about giraffe just as we get this one in a bit better shot. Just gently move up. They're very comfortable with us. Hi Andy. Andy's sending us a question from Maine. Fantastic to have you on board. And I'm just going to get across here, Brian. Andy, I'll come to your question in just 60 seconds while I negotiate these bumps. I just want to get a shot for Brian. He's just in the vegetation here. A little bit backlit, Brian, there. Just try and move here. We've got one right on the road here too. Shall we go up a bit further, Brian? We've got an individual here right in front of us on the main road, a nice bull. And then there's one right to one on my right as well. We might just stop here for a second. So, sorry, back to your question. You got that, Brian? Yeah. Is that good for you? Mm-hmm. The question about, I've gone completely blank now. I might have to get the question again. That's right. What's the normal lifespan of a healthy giraffe? I do apologise, as I was just negotiating those few bumps to get a good shot here. So the normal lifespan is 11 to sort of 15 years. It really does depend. I've worked with giraffe in captivity. Obviously the lifespan of giraffe in captivity is much greater, but in the wild around 11 years, depending on predation and food availability. I'm going to move up a little bit. Oh, here we go, Brian. That's quite a amazing backlit there from the sun right behind the giraffe. How beautiful. That's lovely. He's going to walk right across in front of us. It's an interesting behaviour there. He's pulling that branch right between his legs there. But that is just stunning, isn't it? Wow. So yeah, around that age, and you know, there's so many contributing factors. It's quite interesting to watch. Oh, what a creature, hey? Little oxpecker up on its neck there. So about 20 to 30 million years ago, if you can want to go back in time a little bit, there was a creature that stood about 3 meters tall by fossil records called the Helidotherium, and that's a word that we'll probably never use again, but just to let you know, that's what it was called. And about 8 to 10 fossil generations have come forth through that period up to now, and we're left with this magnificent creature, the giraffe, and its distant cousin, the okapi in Central Africa. And these are the creatures we have today, the giraffeids, the only 2 mammals on the planet that are born with skin-covered horns. And this one's got quite unusual horns actually. One's longer than the other, and that could have been just a flaw or a knock when it was young on its horns, because they don't actually fuse or connect to their skull till they're between 4 and 7 years of age. So they're still floating on the skull, and I think James has got a giraffe skull in the tent at the moment. He might be able to show you, if we get a chance, of that area where those little horns have fused onto the skull over time. An interesting question from Vernie on email. Welcome aboard, Vernie, and thank you very, very much for being with us this morning. And you're fascinated with giraffes like a lot of people. I have to say, probably one of my favourite animals on the planet, and I've worked with them for such a long time. I started working with giraffe back in 1989, 1990, and yes, there is a very, very interesting behaviour that you're noting, that when they do bend down to drink, they splay their front legs. Now, some of them splay their front legs, as it's splay meaning that they put them out in a V shape to get down to drink. Others actually go on their sort of tiptoes and bend their knees. So as they get older, they normally go into that, particularly the bulls go into that knee bent position, and the females have a tendency to splay their legs a little bit more, going down to drink. So they do two different things depending on their height and their age. But your question is, do you think it's more habit than need or necessity? And you're saying that the okapi do it too, but they don't have a height issue. Well, they both do it for the simple reason that neck has to get down, or that mouth has to get down to the water. They do have these incredibly beautiful modification in the valves of their arteries, of their main arteries in their neck, which regulate the blood flow to their brain, so they don't pass out when they're bending down to drink. But they definitely have to get down somehow, and the best way is for them to splay their legs, get their head down as quickly as they can, have short drinks. Very important that they don't have their head down too long, because that's when they are very vulnerable to predators. Now, a lot of people don't think, there's lots of stories and documentation in books that giraffes can kick and kill a lion, and that is true, but there will be fantastically sort of lines that, sorry, I'm stumbling over my words there. You've got lion prides that are specialised in hunting giraffe, and that will be a learnt trait that they have, and when they are bending down at those water points, lion will use that sometimes to attack, catch them by surprise. But they normally push these animals into an area where they either trip or fall, and then you'll get the big males that'll end up pulling down a young giraffe, with females as well. But they splay their legs, they all do it, and it's definitely a needed behaviour for them to get down to drink. But thank you for your question, Vernie, I really appreciate it, and lovely to have you on board. Daniel's asking how many lion it would take to pull down a giraffe. Well, Daniel, that's lovely to have you with us, mate. Thank you very, very much for your question. It depends so many things. It just depends on what the age of the giraffe is. If the giraffe trips or falls or is injured, it just depends really on loads of things like that. But you will get, it could be a couple of females and a male. Obviously the male lion's weight is always a massive contributing factor to success of of keeping an animal down. But once that animal's head is on the ground, the giraffe struggles to regain its footing or to get back up. But they do have to be very, very careful of those legs kicking out. They do have an incredibly powerful kick. They can kick in all directions with all legs. Not at the same time, of course. That wouldn't be very good. But they can do that, and they're very, very powerful. But what a beautiful little encounter this is. Daniel, thank you very much for your question. So we're going to sit with these guys just for a little bit longer. They're all around us, and we've got them on either side of us. We'll just watch them for a bit. We're going to cross over and see what Pete's up to, and I think he's got some very, very interesting bird action for you. We'll come back to you just now.
Oh, morning everyone. Why did I not hear that? I think I unplugged myself. Beautiful morning. Welcome on our vehicle here. My name is Peter and VM on camera. It's been a good morning already. Ellie's on foot, giraffe. And we were just sitting here at Treehouse Dam. There's not really much water here, but it's just such a stunning morning. Golden sunlight, a little bit cool. And then we spotted this little guy. Should be back again in a second or two. So nice to have you here, and looking forward to the rest of the drive that's left. Going to be lots of things happening today, but this is what we're looking at here, and we're going to spend some time here. In fact, we'll probably sit here for the next 15-20 minutes at least, and maybe even go back to some other things again on the drive. But this is the masked weavers, and many of you are aware of these nests. And this guy should be back any second. He's been flying off and fetching grass blades and coming back. There's yeah, I can see one coming back. There's a few of them here. And especially if this waterhole fills up over the next few weeks of rain, hopefully, then you will find various males building nests. Beautiful, bright, sunshine yellow birds. Black mask on the face, red around the eye. That's just so that you know what we're looking for when it lands here. Should be back any second. I was thinking it would be there already. That's a finished nest, and the one on the left-hand side of the two, that's the one he's busy with. Now this rain the last, oh look at that, look at the colors on him. Oh, that's stunning, and I love the yellows, but look at the face as well, up close. Slight red around the sort of top of the head, around the face. Beautiful markings. The females of the species are more brown. They don't have to display themselves to get partners. These males need to really put on a good show to get a female, and that means building a perfect nest and then using that green nest as the background or the backdrop to display themselves against. That bright yellow body nicely set off against the nest that they're building. And that, of course, the better the nest, the brighter the male, the more females you can have. Quite often, in fact, they can have various females that come in. So they start with a little twig. I was actually going to try and sort of show you. So basically they start with a little twig and then they put the nest at the end of it. But I think perhaps we should look on that twig. Let me try and point it out. The angle should work. So if you look at this nest, it's busy building. So it starts with a sort of the ring frame almost, and it's now starting to add body to it. And if we go very close, if you look right at the junction where the nest is attached to the twig, notice how that twig all the way along here is bare. There's no leaves on it. The weavers typically strip that last sort of foot or so of the twig, sometimes even more than a foot. They strip the leaves off. Over a few days and weeks, the thorns can become a little bit bigger if that happens continuously, because the tree thinks that it's getting browsed there all the time. Well, not thinks, but you know what I mean. The tree responds, and that makes a good safe place. So thorny twig is a good sort of structure to make your nest on, and then typically if that nest can be hanging over the water, that's also very good. You're less likely to be disturbed by things like giraffe or elephant, what you've seen this morning already, but also snakes and little other predators, mongoose and so on, that might have tried to climb up there and come and hassle or harass your nest. They're less likely to go up there. So basically this nest here down below, and here you can see where we are, just to show you the area. Treehouse Dam, very dry at the moment. There's one little puddle of water, but when this fills up, this would be a perfect setting for a nest. I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm hoping we can get at least one more sort of him coming in and not displaying it, that nest is too fresh, but when they're building off and they sit there and the wings go like this, partly to showcase their colors. Let's see. That's a female. I can see about 3 females around here at the moment. Oh, there they are up there. Beautiful, well spotted, VM. That's the female. Also beautiful, but not as extravagant, perhaps, for lack of a better word, as the male. The female, as I said earlier, she doesn't need to attract a male. The males do the displaying and the males do the courtship to a large extent. And then if the female finds a male that puts enough effort in to show how fit and how healthy he is, builds a beautiful nest, often that comes with a few years experience even, she'll pick that male, with it she will have the nest, and then if that happens, the male will build another nest, try and get another female. Guys, I am hoping that, just give it a minute or two, we're not going to move yet. I am hoping he comes back that night. It's just such a nice place to look at them. The sun is perfect this morning, early light, nice clear background as well. So I'm going to sit a little bit, listen for a little bit. I'm going to be quiet for a while, just listen to the birds. Beautiful, the weavers in the distance, turtle doves, bush shrikes, the sounds of the bush early morning. So much can be sometimes found or discovered by just listening to the birds. At the moment there's a very sort of happy bushveld sounds. There's no alarm calls, no sudden sort of silences. Sometimes you'll be listening and the next thing it's dead quiet. Guys, we had a question there, so I couldn't unfortunately who it's from, but just asking if the weavers will still nest here if there's no water. Now, in this area the water does fill up to right underneath, even past where the nests are hanging, but they'll still make the nest. Obviously we can see this here, but also this is a very popular place. In other words, some of these birds would have nested here before, last year and even the year before, so they're just preempting it for when the water does get here. It's still a good place anyway. The tree is up on a bank, so the height, the giraffe might be able to get in there, but giraffe won't necessarily directly bother them. So even with no water, the height from those nests down to the ground is quite a distance. But many, if not all, no, I don't think all, but many of the males would have nested here before. So it is a good spot. If this fills up with water, this tree can be covered in, here we go, yeah, there's a few birds coming back. Covered in nests, looks like Christmas decorations. Morning, Anna-Marie. Good question. How long does it take them to build one nest? Anna-Marie, I've only once sat and sort of watched, not quite the whole thing, but not far from it, and that was actually on a live drive. I remember just north of Buffelshoek Dam, one of those drainage lines. It was a beautiful spot. And we sat there probably, oh, which male is this? Another male, 2 males, 3 males coming back. Now we just need one of them to come and sit in his nest. There we go! Patience is rewarded. Look at that little tail, high energy there, tail sort of vibrating almost. I think we sat with that nest, it was probably an hour and a half or 2 hours. I'll see if I get posted a bit later. I remember I've got that album still somewhere on Facebook, and it was beautiful light as well. I remember that's why we sat there. And we actually watched the process unfold. We didn't watch the whole thing, but I would say probably they could build a nest from scratch maybe 4 or 5 hours if I had to sort of guesstimate it. And typically they really like to put a lot of effort into it in the morning so that they have the rest of the morning to display themselves. It's important, as I mentioned, that bright green background forms the sort of backdrop for the male to showcase his colors and his vibrance and his health, if you want, against that nest. So It's not a nest that can hang there for a few days. If they haven't got a female within a day, maybe 2 days at the most, that color will be lost from the green grass, and that's when they sometimes break that nest down then. They'll either just leave it and abandon it, build another one, but quite often, especially when there's high competition, like in this area, this place where we're sitting, and they will break that nest down so you can use that same twig and try and make a new nest. Well, it's not something they just sort of learn overnight. I can't remember specifically, but I read years ago how long it takes, but it's something like 2 or 3 years before they really start building successful nests, meaning nests that actually successfully attract females. Are we going to sit here for a bit more, see what happens, if there's any specific sort of interesting nesting things happening? But one place where it's always interesting is on foot, because you never know what you're going to find. And let's see what Scott has for us.
Hello everyone, and look at how awesome this mushroom is, growing out of a massive pile of elephant dung that's been flattened and broken up. I'm not too sure what would have broken it up. Possibly dung beetles would have flattened it out into this big carpet of vegetation that you can see now. And it's critical that these mushrooms are here because they are decomposers, and without them, just like without termites, a lot of vegetable matter and vegetation and vegetable waste that has come through as dung would not be broken down as effectively, and therefore not recycled back into the ecosystem. Now, there's a few other little critters around here, and one of which is this tiny little stick insect. Look at how crazy this is. They grow massively larger than this one, up to about 20 centimeters. This one I would say is probably only a centimeter long, and you can tell kind of in comparison by this leaf. And look at it waving those front legs around, probably trying to make itself look as big as possible. So that's a tiny little hatchling. And we've also got a pill millipede here that's curled up into a ball for safety. And they're not very big, these pill millipedes. They are wonderful little animals though, kind of similar to a pangolin in the way that it can curl up into little balls to protect itself from any predators. It's got this very hard exoskeleton which helps to protect it against predators, like I say. Oh, no ways! Look at the stick insect, it's playing on the mushroom. This is so cool. Oh, that wasn't very graceful. And it's wonderful that on the bushwalks you can also see exciting animals like the elephants a bit earlier, and now the tiniest of animals. Now, one thing I'd like to show you before we send you across to James in the safari tent, who's going to get a mushroom similar to this under the microscope, I'd just like to show you these tiny little dewdrops that are formed on the grass. How cool is this? And it gives you an idea of how wet our toes are at the moment, or at least my toes in my open shoes. And a wonderful sign of summer and life, little drops of water on this fresh green grass. We are going to send you across now to Hayden in the safari tent to take a closer look at some fungi.
Good morning everybody from here on quarantine clearings in the savannah tent or safari tent, depending on your preference. Wonderful to be out here. It is a spectacular morning. What stunning shots you've had of that gorgeous giraffe. We'll talk a little bit about that just now. Gorgeous shots of the birds. We can chat a little bit about them. And wonderful stuff with that mushroom, an incredible stick insect there with Scott, and the droplets of water. So before we talk about the giraffe, which I think is going to be something very nice to talk about, let's just have a quick look. We've got a mushroom here underneath the microscope, and we're going to get Tebs to come and film it here. Unfortunately, the actual feed is not working, so we'll just bang up the... That is the inside of the mushroom. That's the whole inside of the mushroom. It's a different species from the one that Scott was looking at, so I'm not exactly sure what it is. Mushrooms are confusing things. That's quite a nice picture there. And what you get underneath there, those are the filaments of the mushroom. And the filaments, a mushroom of course is a fungus, and the filaments produce the spores, or the spores sit in between the filaments there, and they are the seeds, if you like, of a fungus. They don't make seeds like a normal plant does. They're not a plant, they're an entirely different kingdom on their own, the mushrooms. So we get animals and plants, fungus, different kingdom. Some of the bacteria in an entirely different kingdom. So these are completely different organisms from plants, which I just think is an amazing thing that we have them out here. And so often I think we think of them as plants, but they're not plants at all. So they breed by means of these spores, which lurk in those filaments there. Right, so that's a fungus. Fungus, of course, is not the top safari thing to be looking at, but the giraffe is a great thing to be looking at. So over here we have a giraffe skull, which we've looked at a few times, but what I wanted to chat through, because it was so obvious with Hayden's sighting earlier, was the ossicones. Ossicones here are the horns. Now if we look at the horns, you can see how they're thickened at the base here for the male, and when the giraffe is born, these horns are bent over, so they're not fused with the skull. And after a few days, or after a few weeks, they stand up, so they fold it over, and they stand up, and after a few weeks they fuse with the skull. And if you look over here, you look just over here, you can see where that fusing has taken place. Isn't that amazing? You can see where they've fused there, and I believe that giraffe that Hayden had, the one had a longer horn than the other, and you can see this one, the same thing is the case. And that's totally normal, it's completely understandable. The interesting thing as well about this giraffe skull is that it weighs 7 kilograms. Now that's an enormous weight, and it takes up to 15 years for it to get to that weight. But the reason it gets so heavy is you can see the thickening around the base here. You can see the thickening on the skull here, and that is from constant fighting, from bashing their heads against other giraffe, and that creates this calcification of the skull, which I think is fascinating. The other thing to note about this is that these ossicones will keep growing throughout the giraffe's life, and they'll keep getting thicker and fatter depending on how much fighting it does. So, that is the giraffe skull. And one other thing I wanted to show you, it's very heavy, is this joint here. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the first two vertebrae, the cervical vertebra, cervical meaning neck, but the joint here, there's the axis, which is the atlas, the top one, and the axis, the second one, and what they do is they're able to articulate or bend at 180 degrees. Now, while you're sitting where you are, in your seat, or possibly at your boardroom desk, watching this while somebody waffles on at the front of the boardroom, just tilt your head back like that. And what you notice is that you get to a point beyond which your neck won't move. And your neck, where you're sitting, if you were to only bend that axial joint, which is the first two cervical vertebrae, you actually feel it. If you put your hand into the back of your neck like that, yours will only bend about 90 degrees. The giraffe is able to articulate that to 180 degrees. And that just gives them a little bit of extra reach as they go grazing or browsing along through the African savannas. Right. Now, let's go back to the drone shot. We'll give you a quick view of what we're looking at here and the gorgeous light that we're experiencing on quarantine clearings, and then we'll head back to Hayden, who is, I can't see Hayden at the moment on all of my feeds, but he's around, there he is, he's looking at, no, that's not him, that's Scott's legs. Alright, we'll go back to Hayden after we've gone to the drone shot, and I'll...
So a lot of great information about giraffes this morning. Really fantastic way to start the morning. We're still with this young bull here. The rest of the herd's moved down here. But we just want to show you something. I'm going to reposition the vehicle and move up. As this giraffe was moving across the road in front of us, Brian and I noticed something it was favouring its left leg, very lame on its left leg, probably one of the reasons why it's sort of trailing behind the herd. It also was using this tree that it's on, which it's probably going to start to do now, to scratch itself. So we'll have a look at both of those things quickly, and then we might leave them be. So I just want to reposition the vehicle, and we can have a bit of a look. It's okay, my boy. It's okay, my boy. So yeah, we really saw lameness. Lameness meaning it was favouring it, or it was limping on this left leg. And we might just get a shot before it walks away of that left leg. Brian, I don't know if you can get there. Now if you have a look, folks, there, you can see the backs of the two front legs, and Brian's right on it now. That left leg at the knee joint there, you can see it's much bigger and it's a bit more swollen. Well, it's definitely swollen, and it's either had some form of trauma, it's had a fall or something, or it might even be a large thorn or something in there that's infected it. There's definitely swelling there. Now that can end up being the demise of this particular individual if a predator or a group of predators was to take it on. It's definitely an animal of immense size, but if it did get chased by a lion and then did trip or fall due to that injury that it's got, it could be unfortunately the great savannah in the sky. But this is the sort of hardship that animals do have to endure. They get an injury and they'll nurse it. Sometimes it'll be fine, but other times it will be ending up going back into the cycle of life. But it was just great to be with these guys this morning and spend the time with them. We're probably going to leave them now and move on, and hopefully that injury will get better for that boy. But thank you, my friend. Lovely to be with you this morning and the rest of your herd. And let's see what else we can find. Really, really great stuff. Giraffe, one of my favourite animals on the planet. I've had the great privilege of hand rearing a giraffe when I was a zookeeper in Australia with a few of my other friends there, zookeepers. There was 4 of us, and we hand reared this young giraffe. And at one point he was drinking 25 litres, which is about, got to do my maths here, 625, 24, about 40 pints of milk a day from his mum in his prime. But we were hand rearing with this special formula milk, and we'd have to feed him at 6 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 in the evening, and 10 o'clock at night. Quite an extraordinary experience, and I'll never forget it. But you really spend a lot of time with those animals when you hand rear something. What a great creature, and what a great start to the day. So whilst we sort of peel back in here and go and try and find some other creatures for you, we're going to hook over to the guys, I think it's Scotty on Bushwalk, and he's got some really interesting tracks for you this morning. We'll see you now.
Come and take a closer look at this. Whilst on foot, it's very important that you take notes of not only what's up around you and kind of animals and things that move, but tracks and signs, evidence where animals have been. That way you'll be sure not to bump into anything unexpectedly. And certain animals out here are dangerous. It's important that we remember that. One of which is the hippopotamus. It's probably one of the most dangerous mammals in Africa and kills more people every year than any other. So bearing that in mind, we have found a hippopotamus track, and it's in the sand in front of us. Not very easy to see, but once I point out the circumference of the track, so this is the outside of the track here, okay, and then there's one toe. This is a toe on the right hand side of the foot. Here are 2 front toes, and this is the toe on the left hand side of the foot. So symmetrical, the toe on the left, the toe on the right, the 2 in the front, and this is the little back pad here. So moving in this direction towards the Buffalo's Hook waterhole, which we are also heading towards. So not a huge surprise to find hippo tracks here. They're very easy to tell apart. There's nothing that looks quite like them other than that of a white rhino. That's the rhino we get mainly in this part of South Africa and the Sabi Sands. So the white rhino would be different in that it's got the 2 side toes, but instead of having 2 toes at the front, it just has 1 toe. So it's 3 toes for the rhino, 4 toes for the hippo, and those are the only 2 that you could kind of get confused with. As I said, they are heading in the same direction that we are. We're just going to bear that in mind. We're not going to flee in the opposite direction. There's no major surprise that there are going to be hippos at the waterhole. But again, just important to know what's going on when you're on foot. And we're going to continue now and send you across to Peter. We'll let you know when we get to the dam though. Maybe there'll be something drinking there.
Well guys, bit quiet outside. We decided to leave that Weaver. Just listening to the game drive radios there. Not too much happening yet, but it's a stunning morning, as you could see on all the different sort of things you've seen. And we're just taking the riverbed here. Apart from being a very scenic, beautiful drive, just with the big trees and the sandy river bottom, it's also, sometimes you find some of the shyer things here. I mean, obviously we're always looking for leopard, but quite often you find things like bushbuck or nyala, like these areas. Monkeys can be around here as well. Nice bird life. Some of these birds that we hear calling but don't often see, they like the stick stuff. So let's see what we can find around for a bit. Yeah, well, remember that just the other day we saw a hippo lying in what was essentially just a puddle on the road. That's the same hippo that typically hangs out at Boetella Lodge at the waterhole there. So probably a different one from the tracks that Scott was looking at. The hippo tracks there close to Buffalo's Hook Dam. That's a little group that we see there. We're going to keep doing this, see what we can find. I think Hayden's having a good morning. He's finding some of those sort of top iconic animals of Africa that we discussed yesterday. So enjoy that, and we'll see you back in a bit.
Well, you never know what's around the next corner, folks, that's for sure. How wonderful. We just drove probably 50 metres, about 100 feet down the road, and we came across this beautiful breeding herd of elephants. Now they're just in the vegetation here. We're not going to disturb them by going into that. We're sitting just on the edge of the road here watching this beautiful breeding herd. Probably count about 15 animals, maybe about 15. There's a youngsters, a couple of nice little youngsters in there. Matriarch just over beyond the vegetation. But if we sit here for a bit, they might come either out a bit closer to us. At the moment, just feeding and having a lovely browse on the vegetation. What a beautiful morning. So this is a real bonding time for them as well. The breeding herd is made up of the matriarch and related females and their offspring. And I think this is the matriarch coming through now, Brian. I'm just having a guess at her side. It's normally the biggest individual, not always, but normally the biggest. The immense strength, you can hear them pushing over that tree. So it's very calm here at the moment, a real sense of serenity in the bush. There's dew all over, the moisture from the last night still settled on all the vegetation, and they're having a beautiful time just slowly meandering through the vegetation here. And it's a buffet for them. They pick off all different types of vegetation, leaves, grasses, bark, roots, shoots, seed pods, all different types of things that they love. spend about 16 hours a day doing this, just browsing and walking through. So I can't see any big males in tow or following on, and that's often the case. You'll just see the breeding herd and the adult males won't be anywhere around. But if there's a female that is in estrus or is cycling and reproductively she's attractive to the male, he will be in tow or trailing the herd until he can sense that she's ready to be mated. Now, interestingly enough, I think we're going to be able to sit with these guys for a little bit, but their digestive system is very inefficient compared to giraffes, like what we saw. They're a ruminant. They've got that several chambered stomach that they can get the most out of their food. Elephants aren't a ruminant. They have to consume vast amounts of food to satisfy their needs, and their dung, when it comes out, is quite raw still. You can still see sticks and grass, and very, very good indicator of what they've eaten. But I'm going to cross over to Scott on bushwalk, and he's got some interesting things happening in some ellie dung. We'll see you just now. We're going to stick with these guys.
Now, like Hayden says, elephants are not the best digesters out here, but sadly in this case I'm not actually going to be able to show you that, because other animals have got to this pile of dung first. You'll see little grains of sand coating this round ball of what was once a fresh pile of elephant dung. Now it's become the home of termites, and they are the critters that are responsible for covering it in this layer of soil. You may see one or two crawling about in this general area, but isn't it fascinating how this has become their planet? The center of their universe is this pile of dung. Now, interestingly enough, there is a bit of a story here, and if we look a little bit down in this direction, you'll see another round ball, and this round ball looks far more covered in sand than the previous one, and this one has been broken down by termites. And if I just break open a tiny bit of this, we'll realize that these termites have broken down, or are in the process of breaking down, what was once elephant dung. And here are a few little pieces of grass and everything that you can see. They haven't quite broken it down yet, but if you were to walk past this little pile of sand, you really wouldn't expect it to be a pile of elephant dung. I mean, it just looks like a round blob of sand. Further back, this is a lot fresher. We can see a lot more elephant dung here, and as Hayden was saying, lots of little barks, pieces of twigs, grasses, you name it, all growing. Well, not growing anymore. It was once growing, I guess, but all found in elephant's dung. And this is what's being broken down to our right in those little piles of sand by termites. This will be broken down by something else, and depending on the time of year, different animals or different insects, different decomposers will be relied upon by Mother Nature to recycle all this matter. And simply because we can't see this being broken down now doesn't mean it won't happen. It's just a process, and Mother Nature needs to deploy some decomposers to this pile of dung, like the ones over to our right here that are already in the process of being recycled. Well, I hope you enjoyed that quick update on elephant's dung. Go back to the real animals now and enjoy that sighting with HT.
They might come. We just moved up, repositioned our vehicle a little bit to get some more shots, and Brian and I are hoping that these animals are going to come out right in front of us here. So they're so calm and relaxed, and you do get a feeling when you're around elephants that you feed off them and they feed off you. It's no doubt about it. You can read their behavior once you sort of spend time around elephants, and I'd have to say this is just one of those times where you feel beautifully in the moment with them. they're going about their daily routine. They're tolerating us being here. We're only about probably 20 meters away from them. It's about 60 feet. Sounds a lot, but there's a couple of individuals that are moving a bit closer to us, and it's a bit tricky for Brian to get full shots at the moment because the vegetation is very, very thick. So if we're just patient here, which is what wildlife viewing is all about, patience and respect, and I'm going to move up for Brian a little bit and try and get something better there for you, mate. They're getting gradually closer to us. In a way, but I think they're going to move forward and we might get a beautiful shot of the baby. It's okay, Mama. It's okay. There's a little one. Oh, just seeing a baby like that, it's a little bit hard where we are, as I said, folks, but Brian's going to negotiate that that cracking sound that you just heard there. Was an elephant pushing over a tree just behind us. That immense strength. We've got a question from Country Gal. Lovely to have you with us. Thank you very, very much for joining us this morning. And a great question, how far can elephants see? Well, they've got a very similar sort of ability or capability as we have. We've got quite good eyesight, but they can probably see about the same as us. Their main sense of that they use in a situation of detecting danger or anything else for that matter is their sense of smell and their sense of hearing. They're great at interpreting through their sense of smell and hearing as well. But with elephant, if you're on foot, which you've probably seen with Steph, Scotty, Brent, James, if you move very, very slowly and you stay still when you do see them, you can go undetected as long as you're downwind from them and you're not making too much noise. They probably won't detect you, and it is a beautiful thing when you're with a professional trails guide to be on foot with these individuals, with these animals, is something that you'll never forget. So thank you very much for your question. Hopefully that's answered it. Similar to us, but their senses of smell and their sense of hearing is what they really use to navigate through and make sure that they stay safe in this beautiful herd structure. Now these little babies, when they're born and throughout, are lavished, absolutely lavished with tender loving care from the rest of the herd. And it's just beautiful to see this little baby through here. Brian, I wonder if I can move up a little bit for you, mate. Get a little bit of shot through there. It's okay, my babe. It's alright. Probably haven't seen many of us before, this little individual. He's so young. Oh, yeah. Look at him there. There we go. That's a better shot, right? It's okay, baby. It's okay. It's okay. No problem. No problem. So we've got a young individual just to the right here coming through. We've got a very interesting question from Susan in Tennessee. Welcome aboard, Susan. And your question is, can elephants jump? You've heard that they're the only mammal that can't jump. Well, I've never actually seen an elephant jump, but I've seen an elephant climb incredible, when I say climb, I mean get up incredible embankments and terrain that you would not think they could do. This one here is just, I'm just going to get up a bit closer for Brian here. Nice. That's alright, my boy. It's okay. No problem. So they can get up incredible embankments and come down terrain that you just don't expect them to be able to. But I've never seen them jump. I've seen them go onto their hind legs to reach up to get high-hanging vegetation, or sometimes very nutritious seed pods on particular trees. But I've never seen an animal, an elephant jump. And the second half of your question was also hippos. Have we ever seen a hippo jump? Never seen a hippo jump, but I can tell you through experience that they can get up to speeds that really do shock you. Speeds into sort of 30-40 kilometers an hour on flat ground hippopotamus, and then I've seen them get over terrain that you would not believe that they can do as well at high speed. So not jumping, but definitely more agile than we think they are. So thank you very, very much for your question. What a beautiful tool that is, eh? That trunk. It is basically their most important tool for using, for feeding, for foraging, for communicating, for drinking, and the list goes on, for fighting even. Strip that foliage back off into the mouth, similar to an elephant, to a giraffe's tongue. He's going to push this now. And you can see that little bird that's flitting around there as well. We might get him flying through camera shot in a minute. It's a fork-tailed drongo, and that fork-tailed drongo is a little insect catcher or fly catcher, and as the elephant will be browsing or foraging, small insects will be dislodged from the tree or take flight, and that little bird, that fork-tailed drongo, will fly off and grab those little flying insects and benefit from it as well. So you often see those birds congregating around large herbivores for that very reason. So speaking of cool insects, let's cross over to Scotty and see what he's got for you. We'll be right back.
Look at how cool this is. Can you believe it? A wasp. And from the side angle, you can see that incredibly thin connection between its abdomen and its tail. And its little antennae are jiggling from side to side. I'm not too sure what it's processing exactly. And its mouth parts have actually latched onto this small piece of grass. It hasn't moved since we've been here. Jeandre actually spotted it, so well done to him, because it wasn't easy to see. Absolutely awesome. You can probably see its wings also tucked up there. And its tail earlier on was pulsating. Certainly wouldn't want to annoy this little animal though, because it will sting you. And unlike a bee, wasps have got the ability to continually sting you multiple times. Whereas a bee, once it's stung you once, that's it. It's used up all its ammunition. It's only got one sting and dies shortly afterwards. But wasps are different. I'm not too sure what type of wasp this is exactly, but I can assure you that it will be able to give you a nasty sting with that little bottom. and we're going to continue before we disturb it. We are getting quite close to the Buffalo's Hook waterhole and really looking forward to arriving there and seeing what's going on. I think we're going to send you back to Hayden. Enjoy.
So just saying a bit of a hi to one of the fantastic guides from Arathusa, Ryan, just sharing some info with us. But we're staying with these Ellies here, and this individual's just been browsing away on that. What a cool creature Scotty was with, eh? I'd love to see that. Look at that reach. This animal, also the elephant and the giraffe, they're the two only animals that really exploit this vegetation band up high like this. So they haven't got really any other competition. It's just the giraffe and the elephant that can do that. Lovely, lovely little encounter we've had with these animals this morning. The animals on these reserves are just too spectacular, habituated or conditioned to the vehicles, which means that they have no problem with us as long as we respect that distance, and they understand that we're not encroaching on that distance, and we just enjoy it. We just show that respect and move on. Habituation and conditioning of animals is incredibly important for us with wildlife viewing in protected areas like we're in, and every time we have an encounter like this, it just adds to the benefit of all coming down to the beautiful Sabi Sands here in magnificent South Africa to have these little encounters. The next person, these animals here, are going to know that the vehicle's not a threat. Over time, with an elephant's life, the longevity that they have, their memory and their experience with us mere humans, really important stuff. Thank you guys. So I'm going to drive on now and see what's around the next corner. It's having a beautiful morning. I'm really enjoying being back here and back in the saddle, folks, but I'm going to cross over to my partner in crime for today, Mr. Pretorius, and he's arriving at a really, really beautiful location.
Well, nice to see Ellies. Sounds like they're going into the thick stuff now, moving away. We've had a pretty quiet drive. We left those weavers some time ago already. We're just slowly making our way towards Buffalo's Hook Dam. In fact, it's just in front here. And even though it has rained and there's water sort of everywhere in the bush at the moment, keep in mind big waterholes are prominent landmarks and often form part of the sort of territorial movements or markings or places where, for instance, leopard would mark if they are, or lion as well. So it's always good to check waterholes, always nice to see waterholes. And this actually had a little bit of extra water come in from this last few rain showers we had. Quite interesting. I like these lines you can see in the mud. Look at that one there as well. And if you could probably guess what it's from, although they're not here at the moment, but I know Scott was showing you some tracks from them earlier. This is from hippos. So as they sort of wading through the mud and make these little pathways through. It's also very important in bigger systems. I mean, this is one waterhole, but if you're in like marshland areas, they actually create these little channels that enable water to sort of flow between different parts of those sort of wetland areas. I only see 4 little goslings. Not sure, but if I remember correctly, I think there were 5 not until too long ago. Something must have happened. Eagle or another kind of raptors. Oh. Oh. And it sounds like there were quite a few more. Nick, who was in the control room this morning, just letting us know there were 7 in the beginning, so 4 of them making still more than 50%, pretty good going. This waterhole, as you can see, it's pretty dry. I mean, there's not much water left in it, but when it's dry and there's no water, this would have been popular. But at the moment, a lot of fresh water everywhere. I actually half expected to see those hippos in here, but they've probably gone up maybe towards one of the dams further north. These birds. Lots of bird display going on right up there. One of the small five as well. You know, you get things like the leopard tortoise would be one of the small five, or an ant lion. And those sticky sort of messy nests you see there are from these birds, called a buffalo weaver or red-billed buffalo weaver. Take a slow drive around, like I'm going to take. Not around the waterhole itself, but just around the area. We're going to go a little bit towards the east. The rest of the morning. Back quickly. I don't think it's anything, but those geese just flew away, both the ones we were looking at. So maybe it's just because, or maybe it's another two geese. That's also possible. I just saw two geese flying along. Now, might be other geese looking for a waterhole to spend some time at. As they were flying in, they saw the other two on the water and tried to avoid them. They will do that sometimes, but it might be the same two. Let's just see if something didn't perhaps disturb them. No, it's two strangers, two other geese. Let me just show you, there's the ones we just looked at, so it's not them that were flying past. Egyptian geese are territorial as well, so male and female together. They will defend the area. If there's a big waterhole, obviously the bigger, the more geese there can be. But they can be quite vicious. I've seen geese fighting a few times, the male Egyptian geese, where they can really hurt each other, even drown each other sometimes. It's a fierce sort of competition. Dip our noses down here quickly while we come back. This is the end of Buffelshoek Dam, where you quite often find buffalo or elephant, warthogs wallowing. Nice muddy area. But looks like about it for now. A spot of wildlife. Let me show you this one. Hey! This one we'll definitely see. In fact, I even speak the language. Also gives you the opportunity to see John Ray a little bit. He's always behind the camera. How's it, guys?
Hello.
How's it going?
Very good. How are you?
Good. What's news?
Not too much, eh? Just got the report of a leopard that crossed in on Zebra Drive.
Okay.
So apparently Ryan from Althusa spotted that. Hello everyone.
Awesome.
Hello
Guys, if you haven't met him, the guy with a smile, that's Mr. Scott Dyson. They're out on foot this morning. They'll be showing you some tracks.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe...
Heading this way.
We're heading into Juma from Zebra Drive. So I mean, we're not close to them here, but what we may do is head across there, jump back into the vehicle, drive down and get onto the track.
Well, here's a thought. Guys, I would love to introduce you to John Ray quickly. We don't actually see him very often. He's the man behind the walking camera. He was on drive with me yesterday. Also taking care of lots of things camera related. John, nice to see you. Do you guys want to lift? Get you to your car quicker so we can go find leopard.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea actually.
Well, there's one seat here next to me.
Awesome, let's hold the backpack on there.
Whatever's easiest. Guys, you can drive along with us. We're going to give the guys a lift. Get a bit of an update.
Happy to jump on like that? Okay, let me hold this for you. That's a better idea.
Cool. There you go. You're sit here.
Thank you.
So you have sort of, this is a bit like a military vehicle. We just sort of put on and pile on where we can. Basically, as Scott was saying, awesome. Scott was saying that the guys from Maritus are more towards the west. Have got some info on some leopard coming in, so we're going to get them to their vehicle quicker. We drove past it earlier. But in the meantime, you can have a look from sort of up above in a bit, and we'll see you back here in a few minutes again.
Oh, hello everybody. Look at that incredible shot there. That's the drone commander himself in full view. Louise Pavard lurking around the backside there with Eugene. Hello Eugene. There we go, and up they go. Ah, it's just so wonderful to be sitting out here looking at fascinating little things as the day progresses and the low-felt morning evolves all around us. Right, we're going to have a quick look at something here called an bloodworm. It's not an bloodworm, it's a bloodworm. And let's go straight across the microscope. Come and have a look here. That there is a bloodworm. Now, it's called a bloodworm because it's red and it contains, unusually for an invertebrate, some hemoglobin. Now, hemoglobin is the iron-rich substance in our own blood that makes or helps with oxygen transportation around the body. It's highly efficient. So, I mean, the bloodworm doesn't do a whole lot more than it's doing right now. But what the interesting thing is, you've just been at Buffelshoek Dam, and these bloodworms would live at the bottom of a dam like that, stagnant and kind of fairly dirty piece of water, a bit like a mosquito larvae. But because it's got that rich hemoglobin in it, it can live under the mud where other animals would suffocate. This one, because of the hemoglobin, is able to absorb oxygen from the mud where many other animals wouldn't be able to do that. And I'll just show you a picture quickly of what the adult looks like. That is the larval form. The adult is this thing here. Very short-lived, doesn't live for long at all, and probably doesn't eat a great deal. Lots and lots of the insects as adults don't in fact live for very long because they can't even feed. So, I mean, another example would be, just quickly, as we looked at him yesterday, but this hawk moth, or this emperor moth here, beautiful thing, that doesn't feed as an adult. It can hardly feed as an adult, so they're voracious caterpillars. You know how caterpillars eat and eat and eat as larvae, but they don't, when they become adults, manage to eat anything, or hardly anything, so they live for hardly any time at all. And in North America, where a lot of you are from, you get those amazing explosions of mayflies, and those mayflies also don't eat anything. They die almost immediately. Right, now you were looking at some elephant dung earlier with Scott, and of course elephant dung is a favorite of dung beetles, but a close relative of the dung beetle that we've just found is this thing here, and I think this is just too fascinating for words. That there is a piece of dung that is not elephant dung, it's hyena dung, but it's had all of the actual nutrients eaten out of it. You can see there's only thing left is hair, and it's been consumed by this amazing little beetle here called a carrion or carcass beetle. And the carrion or carcass beetle is a close relative of the dung beetle, but if you look at him there like that, look at his amazing little carapace shell there. And we'll put him under the microscope for you. And one of them is moving. We'll put the less mobile one there. Now, Scott was also showing you some termites that sit. Now these these beetles have suddenly become mobile. If you tap them around a little bit, they tend to stop. But B. Wilson, you were looking at dung with Scott, and an interesting question from you is to whether termite mounds form from dung. No, they don't be. Sorry, I'm just concentrating on this fellow here. I'm just going to try and calm them down a bit, and then we'll look at them under the microscope. So termites do indeed go underneath dung, but you can't. They don't form mounds. The kind of termites that go underneath the dung pile are not those mound builders. The mound builders will go and collect dung sometimes, take them back to the mound, and there the fungus that lives in the mounds will digest the dung. Those are probably harvester termites that you've got underneath there. They will sometimes build mounds underneath. Harvesters also drag underground, but it's a different kind of termite, probably even an odontotermes, also a fungus grower, which will create like a sort of mud covering underneath the dung and consume it there before moving on, or they'll take it away and drag it underground. Remember, termites very seldom have any kind of pigment in the skin, and that means that they can't be exposed to the sun, and so they have to have some kind of mud covering when they're moving. So they'll cover the dung, they'll live underneath it, or they'll cover a tree branch in a whole lot of sand and they'll crawl underneath that stuff there. Right, so let's try and calm these fellows down. What these fellows do is they fold their legs up as soon as they feel like they're being threatened. They send a play dead, and so we'll quickly get him before he realizes he's actually alive. There we go. No, he really is not playing ball, this fellow. There he is. Okay, well, I don't think we're going to get this guy under the microscope. He's being completely painful. There we go. There, you got him. Go. Let's have a look at him now with the microscope. You can see him moving across the table. So come and have a closer look here, and we'll show you can see him with the microscope. There you go. There you can see his amazing carapace and incredible detail and armor on it. This is called mobile microscope feed, everybody. It's not easy, a new skill. Well, not really a skill. He's picked up a piece of hair. Alright, let's come back to me before you all get nauseous. Right, so that's the carrion beetle. And what we can do, what is less mobile, of course, is the actual carrion that he was feeding on. And this is from the dung of some kind of predator. Now, just remember, for any younger viewers, please don't do this with your hands at home. I am going to wash my hands as soon as I've finished here, and really not a good idea to be handling carnivore dung with your hands if you can avoid it. This, of course, is very old now, and there we go. You can have a look at the hairs. That's all hair. There are almost no animals, not even these carrion beetles, that are able to digest hair at all. So they would have gone in here, they would have eaten out. If you think of some dog dung, or you think of some normal hyena dung, what happens is that the dung beetles, or these carrion beetles, will go into that and eat out all the kind of liquid and nutritious parts of it that don't look anything like the hair and don't have the keratin of the hair. Now, as Barbara, you're asking about these beetles and whether they only eat dead matter. Yes, they are. They're kind of cleanuppers. They're the vultures of the beetle world, and many beetles will eat only dead things, and many insects and other invertebrates will only eat dead stuff. Very few are actually predatory. So lots will eat dead plant material, but very few will actually prey on animals. Notable exceptions being scorpions and spiders, but in the insect world, mainly things like ants and those amazing hornets or wasps that you were watching with Scott. And as I was looking at the screen, seeing it, I was trying to identify exactly what kind of a wasp it is. Very difficult, but probably one of the potter wasps. And what the potter wasps do is that they build a mud nest. Let me show you a little picture of the kind of nest that they make. And then what they do is that they will kill a caterpillar and plant the caterpillar inside the little potter nest. And here we go. Have a look at this. Look at this incredible construction that they make. So what they do is that the female is amazingly adapted to build these sort of potter, what do we call them, little mud nests, if you like, and she'll then fly off and she'll find a caterpillar, and she'll sting the caterpillar and paralyze it, but not kill it. And the caterpillar then has eggs laid inside it, and the wasp will carry the caterpillar paralyzed with the eggs in it off to the potter, to the mud nest, plant the caterpillar inside it, seal the nest, and then the eggs hatch inside the caterpillar, and while it is still alive, they eat away the caterpillar, and obviously it dies thereafter, and then the moth or the wasps will pupate into adult wasps, fly off and do the same thing. So not a very nice way to go if you happen to be a caterpillar. And Judy, you have obviously met Mama Z. Mama Z is the lady who looks after us in camp, and you say Mama Z is going to need some new Tupperwares. That she certainly is. We've got lots and lots of interesting things that we're finding around here on quarantine clearings. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to head across to Hayden, who's driving along. He's waving his thumb, which means that he is ready to receive you. So we'll plant you back on his vehicle, and we'll continue looking around quarantine clearings for other interesting things. Enjoy it, and we'll see you just now.
Well, folks, we just had a bit of a chat with one of the guides, Ryan, who you probably heard. He was just saying goodbye to us when we came back to those elephants, and he mentioned to us that leopard had travelled from Arathusa over into Juma this morning. We've just been looking across the road here for tracks, but we've given word to everyone else as well, just to have a look. So we're looking around here at the moment. We're just going to drop down into this drainage line. We do lose a little bit of signal there, so we may have to jump across to one of the other feeds, but I'm going to carry on. We haven't seen anything back there. I want to carry on and just have a bit more of a look around. As soon as you get a sniff of information like that about leopard, suddenly go into tracking, finding, looking, excitement mode. Your heart rate starts to rise a little bit. Temperature has raised somewhat, so it's getting to the time of the day where they'll probably be going flat, unless they do have a kill hauled up into a tree or something like that. But we always keep an open mind and stay positive. I've seen some incredible behaviour all over Africa in my travels over the past sort of 25 years of leopard. You know, what the books say, which is the, incredible research, these hard working scientists that put these books together for us to utilise on things like Safari Live and get all our information from and learn. They say particular things that they see this behaviour happening and what happens normally, but I guarantee you there is always exceptions to the rule. Always exceptions to the rule, and particularly with predators. I've seen leopards hunting in the middle of the heat of the day in Tanzania, stalking, hunting in blistering heat, and that could be for many different reasons, opportunistic or just incredibly hungry. So I always like to have that open mind. I remember in Uganda, I was there many years ago, and I had some guests with me, and we were just arrived at this place called Queen Elizabeth National Park, and a leopard encounter that I had there was just so unusual that I just have to quickly share it with you. I took my guests to their room, and then I went to my room, and we were just going to freshen up before we met for dinner. And I got to my room and I looked out on my veranda, which you normally do, and you've got a beautiful view of Lake George and Lake Albert there in Uganda. And sure enough, there was a leopard on my veranda, sitting on my veranda, looking out. And because I didn't turn the lights on and I just looked out, he couldn't see me, but there he was just sitting on my veranda. And I was just like, this is the best thing on the planet. So I ran out my front door and went and got my guests, who were bathing at the time, and they both came to my room. He had shaving cream all on his face with a towel wrapped around him, and his wife was dripping wet out of the bath, and they both tiptoed into my room and saw this leopard on my veranda. Very, very funny when you think about people then arriving at their room, seeing this weird man in shaving cream and a towel, and the lady in shaving cream and a towel, and us all having a bit of a giggle coming out of the room. But it was this leopard, this incredible leopard encounter, and that's what it's all about. Beautiful stuff. Alright, so we might lose a little bit of signal here, folks, so just bear with me. Got a question from Will in Colorado. Wow, do you live in a beautiful place, Will? One of my favorite places in the United States, Colorado. So thanks for joining us and thanks for being on board. You want to know if there's any gazelle. We don't have any gazelle in South Africa. You go up into Tanzania and you start to get different gazelle. You get Thompson's gazelle. You get Gerenuk, which are another gazelle. They're another antelope looking like it, but with a very long neck. But gazelle, not in where we are, that's for sure. But we've got impala, and then we've got, which is probably the closest thing to gazelle, and still in the antelope family. And then you start to move up into another group where you've got nyala, beautiful antelope, which I'm sure you've seen on Safari Live, or we might come across one in more riverine, down in the drainage lines. Kudu, another beautiful spiraled horned antelope, and a few other different species, but not gazelle around where we are. But thanks for being with us, Will, and lovely to have you on board. The two gazelles, that I'm talking about up there is Grant's gazelle and Thompson's gazelle. Very, very dominant species up in East Africa. Hi John, got a great question from you on Twitter. You just want to know if there's any updates on the Nkuhumas or any of the other lines. Well, John, I don't have an Nkuhuma update, but I do know that the Birmingham boys, or the 5 males that we've had marauding this area over the last, looking at these tracks in front of us here as well, these marauding boys, they were heard on the other side of the reserve by us last night when we closed at about 7 o'clock. And then we also heard from some people watching or listening to the Juma Cam last night, or very early this morning, that there was also lions heard roaring. So there is lion activity going on around the reserve at the moment. Just wanting them to all come through here on Big Cat Week. Thanks for your question, John. Thanks for being on board. I'm just travelling down to Treehouse Dam now. Again, we might have a little dip in and out of signal, so we might have to crash cut to one of the other team. But I'm just driving very slowly down through here, looking at any tracks crossing the road or walking down the road. One of the great things through the rainy season is you do get fantastic tracking conditions, and you will get a rain shower at night, and the roads will have all the tracks, including the tyre marks, what we call obliterated. So it will be a clean slate, a clean surface, and anything that you know, as soon as you know that the rain stopped or what time it stopped, gives you a great little bit of research to figure out how fresh those tracks are. Going down here nice and slowly. Treehouse Dam doesn't have any water, or hardly any. It's got a couple of little pools, but you still will find animals coming down there to drink from those little pools. Just arriving here now. could be very quiet. You just never know. Water in here. I'll just stop up on the dam wall and we can have a little quick squeeze, quick look around just with the binoculars as well, because it sometimes happens that leopard will just lie down and go flat. What I mean by flat is asleep or resting, and they will always have the opportunity to capitalize on that if need be, or if the opportunity arises for them, if an antelope or a prey animal comes down for a quick drink. Going to have a look through the binoculars, folks, as we scan around. Brian will have a look too. If you guys see anything, please let me know, because you are our eyes and ears also. Sometimes you just get lying in the cool, one of the holes or small wallows up the back there. I've seen Kanuma, the leopard, sitting in one of those waiting to just resting, but also at the point where he just could strike at any moment, and you might only see a tail flick up in the air swatting a fly. Nothing. So I just had a bit of a scan there, and nothing to really write home about. But we got a lovely comment from Maggie M. Maggie, you've been watching the drives for some time now, and Maggie, lovely to have you on board. Really great. This is the sort of feedback and information that makes our hearts sing, and this is why we do what we do. Maggie, you have created a list of everything that you've seen, every species that you've seen since you've been on these drives with us, and that's birds, reptiles, mammals, all the different invertebrates as well, and you have just hit 200 species, which, congratulations to you. Absolutely fantastic job, well done. Hopefully you've found many of those species that you've never actually had an encounter with before, but you have through Safari Live, and that definitely makes our heart sing. Thank you very much, Maggie. Just passing this lovely tree here, where I'm sure this is the tree that Peter was having the weaver discussion with you this morning. They're such characters and absolutely incredible craftsmen and women, craftsmen. Hi Penelope, lovely to have you on board as well. And Penelope's commenting on how blue the skies are today. You're exactly right, Penelope. They've got a beautiful cobalt blue colour to them. A couple of wispy clouds over in the background, which will probably build over time. Brian did a beautiful sort of shot of that landscape, and the blue contrast with the green vegetation is quite vivid this morning. Thank you very much for your comment. It's a great reality check to just look up sometimes and look at that beautiful blue sky. So just scanning this area, bump here, folks. Just hold on. Wow, have we seen some action in this area over the last year. This has been an incredible area for the Birmingham boys. I had some encounters up here with Peter. Peter filmed our first lion kill, our buffalo kill up in this area, and then it was just absolute carnage for the next few days with these marauding boys who are now a force to be reckoned with. I really want to see them too. I actually haven't seen the Birmingham boys for coming up to a year. Every time, oh no, that's not true. That's not true at all. 6 months. Yeah, I did see them in May. But I'm really, I'm desperate to see the Birmingham boys. And you can just drive around a corner sometimes and see the lions lying on the road or lying to the side of the road, and they're just completely relaxed, completely chilled, just enjoying the cool of the morning. And the same with leopard, wild dog, hyena, all these top predators you can just stumble upon so easily. Let's watch the bump here. Scanning, and I think Scott might be onto these tracks as well. We shared the information to make sure the guys on foot can get in and see what they can do, because driving the vehicle you can pick up tracks crossing the road, that's for sure, and get off the vehicle and have a little bit of a look, but the ultimate is when you're on foot tracking and you're off the vehicle. So they do incredible work on the bushwalk. Yeah, okay. Always worth driving around, just having a bit more of a, even if you've just gone down a road and you come back, you just don't know. I used to go on drives when early days, even when I was about 25, and I'd think to myself, oh, we've just gone down that road, let's choose another road. And you think, and then people used to say to me that were much more experienced, you just do not know if there was an animal only like 50 meters off the road, and we just drove past it, and then it's come past us. So you just don't know. Okay, so what we're going to do is carry on down this road. I'm going to cut back in again, start to just traverse or cross-section this area, and this road's quite bumpy. So let's cross over to Peter and get an update from him. He might have more news on those leopards. We'll see you just now.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have any sort of imminent news other than that we are looking for it. As Aidan was saying, always good to know where the leopards might be. And Scott is in that area as well. He's still looking for the tracks. The last I spoke to Scott a few minutes ago, he hadn't found the tracks yet. We have an idea of where it is. We're just making our way in from the sort of northern direction down towards what would be the southwestern corner. Not to give you too many north, south and east, until it all becomes sort of a bit mixed up. But so we're in the top end, and we're taking a road that goes down in that direction. Shadow would, for instance, often use the road, not so much where we are now, but in a few minutes we're taking Impala Plains Road and seeing if we maybe find tracks on this side, and then Scott will see if he can find where those tracks went in. It's still nice and cool, even though it's very sunny, in fact very bright. After the last 5-6 days we've almost had overcast conditions all the time. This morning the sun is shining brightly, but it's still nice and cool. I mean, you can still see me wearing a jacket, even though we are right in summertime. So beautiful fresh weather, good weather for even leopards to still be active in. See if we can find them. Otherwise, just enjoying the drive, and a couple of questions here and there would be nice to have a talk about. Hello Trudy, and nice to have you on drive. Let me just check. Always good whenever you get to a new road, always check it very carefully for things that might be walking along it. Trudy, you're just wondering about the gazelles in East Africa and if there's any chance of them coming into the Djuma area. And then secondly, if not, why not? In other words, what keeps them where they are? Well, I mean, firstly, distance-wise, it's a massive distance. In fact, I don't know off the top of my head the distance from sort of Serengeti, East Africa to Djuma Game Reserve, but I would estimate it in the region of probably 5,000 or 6,000 kilometers. So 4,000 miles, give or take. It's a massive distance, and that there would be different systems, habitat systems that split it. So towards the central part and the central western parts of southern Africa. So take sub-Saharan Africa now as a sort of one piece that we're describing the area in. That whole area has got the Kalahari Desert running through to the Namib Desert. That would just be too dry for those gazelles to move through. And also you find over obviously a long period of time different species have evolved within the area. So the equivalent of gazelle would be impala in this area, and in Namibia, for instance, Botswana, would be springbok. Very similar antelope, very similar niches, but slightly different conditions, and over time they would have evolved separately to it. Okay guys, well there's something else you're going to look at. Enjoy it. See you back in a bit.
Now this is incredible stuff. We've just seen this grasshopper show some incredible strength and determination. We saw it jump directly onto this funnel web spider's web, and it miraculously has been able to power its way out of the actual funnel without the spider detecting it. So fascinating stuff. And isn't this one lucky grasshopper? And interestingly enough, there's another massive one. It's so well camouflaged. I've just seen it now. If you follow that branch up away from this small grasshopper, Jean-Andre, you'll probably be able to see the massive one that's just against that same branch that the grasshopper is about to climb onto. Look at that camouflage. Incredible stuff. There it is. That one will have less to worry about. And its camouflage is so perfect. And let me just point it out with my finger. Look at how well camouflaged it is. I'm just going to get it to move ever so slightly. There we go. Fascinating stuff. Very similar to a grasshopper I actually saw on my last bushwalk. Very, very well camouflaged like leaves or bark. And as I said, that one doesn't have anything to worry about. Cool, well, I'm glad the one grasshopper did get away. Sadly, we didn't get to see the spider that lives in that actual web, a funnel web spider, but if we spend enough time on foot in the bush, we will get those lucky moments. And just the fact that we saw the grasshopper jump and land in the web, Jean-Andre and I couldn't believe our eyes. We both like stopped and we said, well, the grasshopper's in the web, and then all of a sudden we kicked into kind of gear and started filming and got a hold of final control. Now, we are in the area of where this alleged leopard crossed into Djuma from Arathusa around Zebra Drive. Now, where Zebra Drive is just behind us. We parked the vehicle there, did a big search in that area, and couldn't find any evidence of a leopard. So, we are not hugely confident that that report actually was correct. But the great news is, regardless of where we are walking around on safari, we may bump into a leopard or a lion or anything really. So we don't always need those reports. It would have been nice though to have some tracks, some clear evidence, but no sign of that. So we're just going to walk around this general area and hopefully we will be able to find something of interest. I'm sure it won't take too long to get some kind of action here. And the summer really is wonderful in that there's so much going on, especially with the smaller things, the bugs and the insects. And it sounds like James, who's in the safari tent, has found something that he would like to show you, and that is a little spider web. So again, on the topic of small little bugs and critters, the creepy crawlies that are out and about in summer, we're going to continue to enjoy the spider web.
I have your life. It's what an incredible shot that was of that little grasshopper disappearing. It looks like it had a narrow escape to me. I'm not sure what it was sitting in, I couldn't quite tell, but amazing that it got out of what was going to be a very nasty death. Now what we've got here, I don't know that you're going to be able to see it, but I'll describe it. It's so delicate. It's a tiny little orb web. Now the orb web spiders are a different family of spiders, and there's a very delicate orb web, and by orb I mean the traditional kind of spiders. If you can think of the traditional spider's web, it's strung between these trees, and it radiates out from a central point over there, delicate little fine fibers out to the sides, and then obviously those radial strands which will be very sticky. Okay, and I've actually found, we're going to put him under the microscope, the spider responsible for this incredibly delicate thing. Now I want to be very careful with him because I don't want to have to remove him from the wild. Okay, let's come and have a look on the microscope here. It's just amazing. Look at that. Microscopic little spider that has made the most delicate nest in between the fork of this tiny, delicate little twig. Look how small he is. He's so tiny. Now, I don't have him in the book, I'm afraid. He's a very small orb web spider. I will try and I'll have a great bigger look just now to see if I can't find him. But he's just sitting, I mean, he's microscopic, he's tiny. You can just maybe see him over there like that. Not. No, we can't see him. Okay, right, so that was the tiny little spider that made an orb web. Not to be confused with the golden orb web spider. Of course, it is a terrifying spider. Well, looks terrifying, especially to people who come on safari. Now, a little bit earlier on today, you were looking at a southern masked weaver with Peter. Beautiful colours, and just the most astonishingly gorgeous colours that you don't normally see. And here we have an old weaver's nest, and this old weaver's nest is from the same tree, I think, under which Peter was looking at that new masked weaver weaving his nest. Clever thing that he is. Now you can see all sorts of different kinds of feathers in here. I wouldn't go putting my nose in that because I think the lice and different kind. I've just found this thing, so we haven't had a chance to really investigate it, but we will have a good dissection of it a bit later. And there are whole lots of, there'll be mites and lice and all sorts of unsavory things in here. But what is interesting to me here is that you can see the outer covering is what you saw that weaver making today, from green shoots, and he's woven it so beautifully on the outside, but on the inside there's a whole lot of comforting kind of material for the chicks to lie in, and I think that's amazing. So they've created a kind of really cozy nest for the little youngsters to be sitting in. Now also interestingly, I think, is that I don't believe that this feather is from a weaver. I think this feather here is from a brood parasite. Now, I'm not sure if you can see the colours there, but I think that this feather here comes from something like a Diederik's cuckoo. Now, the cuckoos do parasitize the weavers, certainly the Diederik's cuckoo does, and I wonder if this thing doesn't come from a Diederik's cuckoo chick that was planted in this nest last year. And for those of you who don't know, it's the most amazing evolutionary adaptation that some birds and I think some insects indeed have evolved, where there's no parental care at all. They go and they put their eggs inside the host nest like this one. So the cuckoo comes and lays its egg in here, The cuckoo chick will hatch and either toss out the other eggs or outcompete the weaver chicks, and the weavers will raise the cuckoo without any idea that they're raising a completely different species that carries nothing of their genetic legacy. And I think that's what that is there. So that's very fascinating to me. Then we had a wonderful question related to these weavers from Donna in Niagara Falls. And Donna, you want to know if they come back to the same tree every year. Donna, I don't think strictly, but certainly I think they'll come to the same vicinity. So these ones were found around the Juma Dam. And I think that you'll find that there's different pairs that, well, they're not monogamous necessarily. They're monogamous per season sometimes, but they're not always totally, they're not sort of lifelong partners, the weavers. I think you'll find the males do come to a similar area to build every year. It's not necessarily that they have to. So, for example, Juma Dam might not get water this year, so the village weavers that built there last year may well not return. They like to build over the top of water. I don't think it's an absolute necessity. There's certainly nothing like the Wahlberg's eagles, which of course will come back to the same nest every single time, which I think is just amazing. And we had a comment, wonderful comment from Maggie, who who said that she saw her 200th species the other day, in fact yesterday, and that was brought up, if I'm not mistaken, by the fruit chaffer, the zigzag fruit chaffer. So thank you, Maggie, for that. You say, can you count the dead honey badger that we saw a little while back? Maggie, for your 200th species and that level of commitment, you can definitely count the dead honey badger as one of your 200 species on WildEarth. Right, Scott Dyson, the inimitable, has found himself a skink. It is residing on a piece of wood, so let's go and take a closer look at that as it basks in this marvellous heating sun.
Well, I know Chris Rogue Cropper was hoping to see a snake, and moments before we found this striped skink, I did say the same thing to Chandra. I said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we found a harmless snake, ideally a python? Well, at least we have got another reptile, Chris, and isn't this a great view of this little striped skink? It's probably halfway to fully grown, and from tip to tail will be about 6 inches in length now. So about 3 inches of body and 3 inches of tail. They'll get to about 5 inches of body and 5 inches of tail when they are fully grown. And it's enjoying basking in this morning sunshine. Being a cold-blooded animal, this warm sunshine will be doing a great job in warming it up, getting it ready for a day out hunting. And it's going to be making the most of the summer bounty of insects. If there were termites emerging in this area now, we would be bound to see this little lizard running around gobbling as many of them up as possible. And hopefully we will be able to see something like that in the near future. The other day we were lucky enough to see a scorpion out making the most of the termite emergence. And interestingly, it's living on a dead log, a very solid kind of log, a redwood, and it's even been through a fire before, and you can see a few little black charred parts of this hardwood, and it's probably from the Combretum family. So just a good indicator of how, even though this tree has fallen down and died, it's created a solid home and structure for this lizard to now live on and around. Great, we're going to leave the little lizard to it and continue on the bushwalk. And while we continue, we can answer a question from Ralph, and he's interested to know about the funnel web spider and whether or not it's as dangerous as the Australian funnel web spider. Ralph, I don't actually know the answer to your question. I've just seen a lapwing take off from in front of us here. It could well have a nest. So now we're going to have to creep very, very carefully to try and find the eggs. But Ralph, sadly, I don't know the exact answer, but I'm fairly confident that if the South African funnel web spider was highly venomous, I would have found out about it, or I would know about it. So the fact that I haven't got that information in my filing cabinets makes me believe that it's probably not highly venomous and therefore not well known like the Australian funnel web spider. If anyone does know the answer to that, please send that through to #SafariLive on Twitter or questions@wildearth.tv. The wonderful thing about Safari Live is that we get to share knowledge. And I don't know the answer to Ralph's question, but maybe one of you do. What I do know is that I'm fairly certain that there is a bird's nest here. And because the eggs are so cryptically camouflaged, I need to make sure I creep along very, very slowly and literally watch every little place that I position my feet to make sure we don't do the unthinkable and stand on some bird's eggs. Where could you be? I mean, I could be wrong. I just saw it take off from here. I'm not even sure what kind of a lapwing it was. It could have been a Senegal lapwing, but it took off from in this general area, and because I didn't see it walking around, that's what leads me to think it may have been sitting down for as long as possible and hiding its eggs from me. But then when we got a bit closer, I thought, well, let's get out of here. No, where could they be? If they are in fact here. I've done this many times where I've been searching frantically for eggs where I think there may be a nest, but come up with nothing, and I fear that this could be the same now. I'm losing confidence at a rapid rate. So we're going to continue on. Another reason why I think that there may not be a nest here is that, judging from the bird's behavior, the way that it just flew off, makes me think that it's got no major concern of us standing on its eggs. If we did get close to the nest there, which I'm guessing we were close if there was a nest there, it would have maybe flown in and bomb dived us to get us away from there. Or another thing that the lapwings will do is they'll feign an injury. So as we started getting close, it may have started walking around, dragging its one wing, and that way making us at least think that it's injured and that it would be an easy meal and it could lure us away from the actual nest. So very clever birds, the lapwings, and obviously they've got a lot of the time that they actually... What is on my... Oh no, Jean-Andre said there was a little bug on my hat, but it just flew off as I took it off. Anyway, we tried. As I was saying though, the lapwings do have to be prepared to deal with not only us walking through the bush, but a lot of other mammals like buffalo and elephants. And of course when they get close to the nest, there's no ways they're going to see them, and that's when the adult lapwings will come in, bomb dive buffalo, or stand their ground, hold their wings out and make sure that those buffalo don't step anywhere near that nest. We're going to take a gamble here. There's a beautiful butterfly that's just landed on the ground there. Have you got it, Jean-Andre? Well done. I think you're going straight in for it. Well done. Look at how beautiful this is. It's a little butterfly called a pansy. And I think this is the yellow pansy. I can't see any little spots on it. Incredibly difficult to identify all the different butterflies, but I'm fairly certain that is a little pansy. And there's so many awesome moths and butterflies around at the moment. And it looks like, just like the striped skink, it too is enjoying just basking in this morning sunshine. Great stuff, Jean-Andre. And isn't it wonderful how you can really get immersed in these smaller critters and creatures, especially with this camera. It's got a wonderful zoom that just takes you straight in there. I can hear some birds' alarm calling up there. Let's go and have a closer look there. Could be a snake possibly that's disturbing them. It could be birds having a dispute with other birds, maybe a mongoose. But I can just hear whack, 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 whack. I'm not sure what bird is alarming. It's just up ahead here. The wind's picking up quite a bit now, blowing in a northerly direction, north and westerly direction, so in our favor. And the birds were somewhere up ahead here. They've gone quiet now, as they often do. If it's something like a slender mongoose, a high-paced predator, it could run off quite quickly and then the birds will naturally stop alarm calling.
No, I was just saying how wonderful it is that you can get some really close-up visuals with Gendre's incredibly good camera work, keeping this camera freehand dead steady as if it was on a tripod, to get up to those butterflies and other animals. But there's also, of course, now the microscope that can take you even closer than Gendre can, and James would like to show you some wings of some moths and butterflies that he's collected. Enjoy.
Well, I'm not sure about moths and butterflies, but we've certainly got some wings here, and I can show you a moth wing. But the first thing I'm going to show you, I'm going to bring you straight across here to the microscope, and we've got a picture here of a termite's wing. It's perfectly in focus now, and what you can see is the astonishing detail. We will go across the there we go, microscope, and you can see there the wing. Sorry, the exposure is very difficult on this little camera. In fact, it might result in my throwing it out of the window fairly soon. You can see the venation there, those are veins, and this is a termite wing. It's very kind of a delicate lattice work, and I'm going to zoom out a bit now. So, oh dear, it's got stuck. There we go. Okay, sorry, this is not high quality. We will get there. Maybe we have a look at my face rather than that while I get it in focus. It's now blowing away, of course. Yeah, in fact, let's just look at it like this. That's much easier. Okay, so there's the wing, and very delicate, and those veins are extremely important. They carry sort of hydraulic power. There's obviously nothing in the way of bones that holds the wing taut, and so those little veins will carry fluid that will sort of, with hydraulic pressure, keep the wing steady. Right, that is the termite wing. Now we're going to look at this dung beetle's wings. So Tibbs, I think come over here and let's have a look here. There's a the weaver's nest. You can see we're mid-dissection at the moment. But if we look at the wings here, what I want to show you is, again, you can probably see the venation in the wings there, and we will have a look at that under the microscope. But what is interesting here is these are the elytra, and those are modified forewings. So it used to have front wings and back wings. Now it's only got back wings. And when this dung beetle is at rest, or when it's rolling dung, this one is no longer going to roll any kind of dung, it's very dead. These wings fold up like that, underneath. It's the most incredible thing. They fold up completely in half, up underneath the elytra, and the elytra then close down on top of the wings. And they're completely protected, because you can see how incredibly delicate they are. So very difficult for the dung beetle to maintain these very delicate wings without that kind of protective layer. And I'm just going to put them under the microscope now, and we'll have a better look at them. I think better if I hand hold this rather finicky device. There's quite something coming from a Land Rover into the tent here and having to operate all this finicky equipment. There we go. Come on, get into focus. Oh dear, we're having nothing, no luck here at all. Hang on 1 second. We will get there. We will get there. Be brave and have fortitude, everyone. It looks like it might work. That looks like a picture is forming. Okay, thank goodness, there we go. Okay, right, there you are. You've got a vague idea there of the dung beetle's venation. Look at the delicate lattice work and the amazing detail, and you can see a mite just to the left hand side of your screen, and you can see those sensitive leg hairs, very important for sensing different changes in temperature and pressure. Certainly that's the case on scorpions. These ones probably also used for gathering the dung and also for just feeling where they have to go. That's the brand name, of course, of this microscope, so we'll move that out of the way. There we go. Isn't that amazing? Incredible detail and hairs. We'll just move along his body, and there you can see the claws on the front of the front legs there, which are modified for dung gathering and dung collecting. Just wonderful. Look at that. Now, just before we go away from here, I'm going to show you if I can re-find him. Nasty little fellow, where is he? Here he is. the termite. And I think we're going to go and have a look at a termite mound with Scott just now. So you won't get this level of detail of a termite. I think this is a harvester termite. Let's try and get that brand out of the way. This is a harvester termite here. And look at the detail on the termite there. You can see the very important feelers, which are used as highly important sensory organs. And what I do want to show you, just come back to my face there next quick while I flip him over. I want to show you the mouth parts. And the mouth parts of a termite are obviously extremely important because, well, they have to eat and they have to communicate. And how a termite communicates is, or how they know each other, is by exchanging a form of pheromone every single time they go past one another. And what that does there, we'll just go a little bit closer in now. Right, there we are. There you can see the mouth parts. So we'll look at those mouth parts. He's not alive, that's the wind blowing against his feelers, by the way. The mouth parts are important, of course, because they eat and they communicate. And they produce a pheromone. Each cast of termite, be it a soldier or a worker, will produce a pheromone. And every time they go past each other, these termites will exchange saliva. And so, depending on how many workers and soldiers there are in a termite mound, you can see how the ratio of worker to soldier pheromones will be the same in all of the termites that are walking around. And what that means is that when the eventual worker that feeds the queen feeds her, she will receive that ratio of worker to soldier pheromones, and she will know therefore what to lay, whether she should lay more termite or more soldiers or more workers. So really incredible there. Now just let's come back to have a quick look here. If you look at that face there, that is the face of every science fiction alien you've ever seen. That is where they come from. Every time you see a science fiction film with a nasty kind of a evil looking alien that wants to devour humanity, that's normally what his face looks like, and that's basically where they get them from the insects. And like I say, his feelers are moving there simply because the wind is blowing against him. He is not in fact alive, he is long dead. Okay, I think what we're going to do now, apparently, is head up into the air with the drone commander, who's sitting around here somewhere, staring at his iPad as he flies the drone around. And we've got an incredible view of a termite mound. Let's go across there and have a look. Look at that. Isn't that fantastic? That is a different kind of termite to the one that we have here. That's the fungus-growing termite, Macrotermes natalensis, the largest fungus grower that we get here. And they make those enormous castles of clay. They're so iconic, such iconic features of the African land snape. Right, and straight across, linking in perfect consistency to Scott, and some harvester termites going into the ground. See you just now.
So we've just stumbled upon these harvester termites, and there was a hive of activity early on. I'm not sure if they've all started seeking refuge since we've been here. They could well have. They are predated on by large mammals like the aardvark, and maybe our presence kind of got them a little bit nervous. You can see quite a few of them though just moving around the entrance to their termitaria. There's many different entrances actually, and in this area of about 3 square meters there's probably about 20 holes. And all of these different holes are being heavily trafficked by various termites. Let's move across to another hole that seems to be a little bit more active. And it's just over here, Jean-Andre. There's 2 soldiers drumming their heads, and that's how they communicate at the base of this hole. And that one's probably 3 or 4 times the size of the small workers. There's a lot of smaller workers just kind of over here, Jean-Andre, that are busy looking for tiny bits of grass, and they're going to be carrying a lot of little blades of grass, little leaves down into the termitaria so that they've got
a healthy larder and a full pantry of food. And I've heard different reports. I've heard from some people that these actually become more active just before rain. So harvested termites can be a good natural indicator that we could be expecting rain. I mean, in this case, I don't necessarily think it's the case, but it is possible that just before heavy rains, they try and really stock up on as much food as possible so that they can batten down the hatches during the bad weather. This is a big soldier that you're looking at now, I think. Well, there's all different sizes, so hard to keep track of who's who and what's what. But it is interesting in termite culture and colonies is that you get workers, you get soldiers, you get reproductives, which are the flying termites, and you get the queen. And all of them will be working mainly for that queen. She can have millions of workers and soldiers that look after her. And isn't that incredible to believe? I'm told that on average each termitarium has got about 2 million individuals making it function at any given stage, and they are repopulated by that queen who's laying on average 30,000 eggs every day. So there's a high turnover rate. Interestingly, you can see them all hard at work here, and they've been following set trails, and they leave pheromones to help the other termites within the colony know where to go. And you can almost see that they're creating small trails, or game trails, or paths, just like the bigger animals do that we follow when we're on walk. It's also applicable for these tiny little termites. How awesome. They've also got their own little highways. Great, well, we're going to carry on. I do feel that we may have slightly disturbed their busy morning since we arrived, so let's carry on and see what else we can find. And we're going to send you across to another animal that lives in burrows, but it's a mammal and it's quite a lot bigger than this.
Well, well, well. Look at this. How lovely. We just arrived at the hyena den, and here's Ma and her little cub. She's just repositioning herself to get comfortable. And how beautiful. I know we've she's about to sit on him. Beautiful. In the shade, the dappled light on their coats. She is a beautiful, beautiful animal in prime condition. As they start to get older, they start to get a little bit more knocked about and a bit haggard and nursing some war wounds. Here comes another sub-adult. Gosh, this is beautiful. This is my first time to come to this hyena den and see these guys, so I'm very excited. This is beautiful, guys. What a lovely way to finish today. This morning's drive has been beautiful, very, very relaxing, and to finish with a top predator like hyena for me is one of those magical days. Oh, that is just too beautiful, that animal. I'm just going to take a few photographs, folks, so if you hear me clicking away, the light is just perfect. And she's just laid down, and the little guy's gonna have a little suckle on his mum. That is very, very beautiful. What a great place to have a den. Speaking of, we've done a bit on animals living in burrows this morning, and here is another case of that magnificent termite mound being a big house for many, many different creatures. And over time, as an aardvark makes a hole and burrows in there and then moves on, porcupine might take over, then they might move on. Warthogs may utilize it as one of their networks of safety houses, or one of its places to retreat during the night. And then you've got hyena as well that utilize one.
Sounds like Hayden was in a bit of a low-lying area, and it's good to have you back on the bushwalk due to his lack of signal. Really wonderful having him back in town along with Peter, and it's such exciting stuff here at the moment. The crew's on such a high, and really looking forward to getting these Nat Geo Big Cat broadcasts on the go. But of course we're enjoying all the benefits in the meantime, just sharing these moments with you and all the new additions and adaptations that we're making here at Safari Live. Still no luck with the leopard, haven't heard any alarm calls that was allegedly moving through this area. I also saw Peter drive past not so long ago. He didn't see us though, and he was leaning over the side of the vehicle scanning carefully for tracks. So good to see that Peter was very focused on the task at hand, and so was VM, and I think that's why they didn't see us. Interesting kind of note to learn from that is that when you are so focused on tracks and tracking, you tend to look down so much that you could actually walk straight past the animal you're tracking if you're just watching your feet the whole time. Now this right here is a termite mound that I cannot resist mounting. Watch this. Ah, something fell off. Ah, no, it fell off. I dropped my sock. Now I'm not sure if it's going to be easy for Jeandre. Jeandre, I think it's worth trying to come up here. Come up and have a closer look up here. I hope he doesn't fall down, and I might need to pull him up at the last moment if need be. Here we go. Well done. Welcome up everyone. And that may have not been the most graceful mount onto the top of the termite mound, but now you can take a look around and there's quite a spectacular view. Nothing like a little bit of elevation once you have been walking on the ground all day. You guys have been lucky enough to have some flights on the drone, but this is the highest we've been up this morning, and now you'll see some beautiful views out to the south and the west. That's out towards Arathusa where you're looking now. Whew. Now I've just got a question through wondering where my socks are, and that is a good question. I'm not wearing any socks, so Rachel, I'm not too sure what the reason is for that, but it's just too hot to wear socks, and these are kind of strops is what we call them here in South Africa. It's a hybrid between a flip-flop and an actual shoe, that way allowing a bit of breathing for the feet on hot days like we are experiencing at the moment. So no socks needed, and we're going to send you back to Hayden and the hyena.
So we're still sitting here at these beautiful spotted hyena, and it is a perfect morning, absolutely perfect morning. Temperature's beautiful. They've just got a little bit of shade up the top there, nice cool location. You can see the back of the female that has the offspring, and her cub is actually not that one that just appeared. It may be her from her last litter. She's tolerating it, that's for sure. But there's a very young one right in between sort of her legs, just on her belly, that we can't quite see. It's such beautiful light, folks. I hope you don't mind if I take a couple of photographs here, because it's really fantastic. That young male's in perfect condition. I was just mentioning before the female that we're looking at the back of a second ago. She's in such perfect condition. She hasn't really got a mark on her. Sometimes they get really haggard in their older age through fights and dominancy, and either scraps with predators, or There's the little guy. He's just about to stick. He's been suckling on his mum. He's going to have a full belly after this and probably do not much more than sleep. But you just see his ears there popping over the head. We might get another glimpse of him. There's the other brother, which has a really beautiful animal as well. So what goes on in that den when the babies are born is a absolute fierce rivalry. Pretty much soon after they're born, and the siblings will just battle it out for dominancy as early as hours old, and that dominancy then starts to pressure the other cub or cubs into weakening and eventually not surviving. So it's often you see them with just one cub, but that cub will be very, very well looked after and programmed to be the most successful gene in that reproductive cycle. So basically it is the strongest survive, the fittest survive, and that's why you often see them with just one. Now that particular individual may go out with the alpha female up to, they'll only be about 3 months old. They might tag along to a close kill. They wouldn't go too far because they can be hit by predators very, very easily as well. So they get a great advantage being the alpha female's offspring. They get to go into these kills probably about 4.5 to 5 months earlier than the other animals within the clan. So I'm not going to leave this location, folks. I think it's a lovely thing to finish our drive on this morning. So I'll just sit put here, and we might just cross over to see what Scotty's got, because he's always got something interesting on that walk. So we'll be back just now.
Look at how crazy this is. I'm not too sure what these red beetles are, but what I can tell you is that they are having a wonderful meal, snacking on this millipede. And interestingly enough, there was actually more of these little red beetles. And this is called a millipede assassin, apparently. And I'm guessing Stefan has just provided Nikki with that information, who's then handed it on to me. So thanks very much, Steph. And he's sitting in the final control room. So good also, like I was chatting about Pete and Hayden earlier, we are so lucky to have Steph on our team. He's incredibly knowledgeable. So obviously these insects actually assassinate these millipedes, hence their name, and the millipede's still alive. You can see its legs are still moving. And they obviously hunt in a pack, these beetles, because look at all of them. A few of them have actually fled the crime scene, and they're all different shapes and sizes. There's some slightly bigger ones that are not in shot at the moment, and I wonder how it is that they actually go about killing the millipede. Do they have a poisonous toxin that they envenomate or inject into this little millipede? It doesn't look happy, but they certainly are, and I guess that's nature. Some animals will pay the price for the benefits of others. Such a cool little red beetle, and the fact that they hunt and live in a pack like this is quite phenomenal. Interestingly enough, there's another millipede that I've just seen over here, and I'm just going to move it into frame for you. And maybe what they specifically feed on are the legs, because if we look at that other one, it doesn't have any legs, but its body is perfectly in shape. And oh, I've just found another millipede here, but it's still alive and its legs are intact. So we're going to leave that one where it is, hiding in the foliage. And I'm just wondering if these millipede assassins don't actually live
somewhere around here, and that's why we've got the remains here of one, and that they could probably kill a lot more in this area if they live here for long. Absolutely awesome stuff. Well, I was going to ask you guys to try and identify these bright red beetles, but again, thanks to Steph for pointing out that these are the assassin of the millipede. And we're going to send you across back to Hayden, who's still at the hyena den site, and we're going to continue and see what other interesting critters we can find.
So our little friend has made a bit of an appearance now. He's, or she, has had their feed and now is getting all active. They'll probably do a little bit of activity and then go to sleep after a full belly, but playing with mum's ear there. And all these tiny little bits of play that is happening now, hone their skills for their later time in life. But proper bonding stuff going on here. Just beautiful. It's sort of similar in us, or compare ourselves. We always do it. It's impossible not to. We pretend we don't, but I'm sure there's people sitting here watching with us right now that can relate to that new little one in the family that's always hassling you when you just want to have a quick break. Beautiful. Interestingly enough, we talked about, right at the beginning of the drive this morning, we talked about gestation periods of zebra and I think we talked about wildebeest as well. Zebra about 365 days, 12 months roughly. Wildebeest about 8.5. It's quite a long gestation period, as we talked about. These guys, spotted hyena, only about 4 months, but being a top-line predator, there's this nurturing or caring that can take place, and they can spend more time looking after. They have less threats and they've got more protection, and they don't have to have such a long gestation period. Interesting question from Jeffrey in Texas. And Jeffrey, thank you very much for being with us this morning. Another wonderful place in the US, and I've been there many times. But Jeffrey, your question is about what happens to the other siblings that may end up weakening and dying in a den due to the dominancy and that sibling rivalry that happens. We just discussed a minute ago. Well, what happens to that animal, I couldn't really say. I doubt that they would eat it. Sorry, I'm just laughing at this little guy. I doubt that they would eat it. I couldn't tell you the answer on that, but definitely try and look up that and ask a few of the other guys what would happen. It potentially may decompose, but they probably would either remove it or I'm not really sure on the answer to that. Very interesting question, Jeffrey, so we will have a look forward for you and try and come back to you on that on the next time I'm on drive, or I'll pass it on to one of the other guys to get back to you. But thank you very much. lovely thing to finish on, everyone. And the boldness of this little cub as well, to be so comfortable. Mum is so comfortable with us. She knows we're no threat to her. He's very inquisitive. He doesn't know quite what we are, but he's still up for a bit of a play. But Mum doesn't really look like she's in the mood at the moment. Just beautiful, tender, loving care from her, just tolerating everything that he's doing. Squeezing her underneath the leg. I thought he was going for some more milk, but yeah, he's giving the indication. Want some more milk. And look at that. Mum obliges. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Well, this is a magnificent thing to finish on. Hyena den with mother and cub and yearling, probably that other youngster, completely relaxed with us, completely at ease, not threatened by us whatsoever. And what a beautiful thing to be able to, as human beings, watch wildlife with such honesty and integrity, and really just a beautiful thing to be able to do. And I want to say thank you for all of you this morning for being with us, or wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is, from Scott on walk, from James in the tent, from Pete, from myself, from all the team. We really want to make sure that you get hooked on Safari Live and stay with us and join the family. Really great to have you, and I just want to say thanks again. I'm probably going to be not driving this afternoon, doing something else, maybe in the tent with James. We'll just mix it up a little bit. But again, thanks for all the welcomes back. You're amazing. We'll see you just now. Check these guys out to finish.